Maybe I'm crazy, but I think I've started preferring these over Centurion lounges. In today's video, we're looking at some updates, we'll talk about a pretty good offer, and then how you might want to use your Bonvoy points before the window of opportunity closes. We'll then move into the Centurion lounge in LAX and a different alternative that might make sense. Timestamps down below if you need to hop around. Big favor from you guys, give this a thumbs up, and if you are someone new here, consider subscribing. We're almost at 250k, kind of crawling our way there. The American Express Bonvoy Brilliant has a pretty good offer that ends in about 3 weeks. Until May 18th, 2022, you're going to get 100,000 points and also a free night certificate worth up to 85,000 points for spending $5,000 in the first 3 months. We'll talk about the value of the points in about 90 seconds because there is a bit going on there. For the card, there is a $450 annual fee, but for most of us, it ends up being a pretty easy keeper card. The big reason for this is because each year, you end up getting a $300 statement credit towards Bonvoy properties. And unlike other cards like the Hilton Aspire, this is not specifically for their resorts, it's for all of their hotels. Whether it's something fancy like the Luxury Collection, something I like the JW, or if you are someone doing more economic stuff, there's a ton of options. Bonvoy has a huge footprint of over 6,500 hotels. 450 minus 300 is a 150 effective annual fee, but it gets even better. On top of that, you end up getting a free night award every account anniversary. This is going to be for hotels that are up to 50,000 points per night, and I can easily see that being worth more than $150, which is what it's being priced at. So at a minimum, if you get 150 in value, then you break even from the card. More likely though, you're probably getting 250 to maybe $400 in value, so you're coming out ahead. The cherry on top of all of this is that you get Priority Pass. Yes, the American Express versions are not as good for restaurants and stuff like that, but it's still pretty good. And the fact that it's an unlimited version instead of one that's fixed. In the worst case, you break even from the credit and also the anniversary night, and you effectively have a free Priority Pass card. For most of us, it's going to be a keeper card, especially since they are allowing you to add points to top off for those certificates. I happily pay $450 to get $800 in utility every single year. On that note, if you do want to learn about cards and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and also down below in the description box. Make sure the cards make sense for you and that the links are competitive, but otherwise, it's a huge way to support the channel, so thank you guys in advance. If you are playing the Bonvoy game, then you need a game plan, especially for aspirational travelers. A month ago in late March, the Bonvoy program started its devaluation. In the past, Bonvoy was amazing for upside given that there was an award chart. What this means is that there's a maximum number of points they can charge, whether it's an expensive hotel or one that's a bit more affordable. So for that top level, that category 8, you would have hotels that cost maybe $350 and also ones that cost $3,500. Regardless of the price though, the fact that it was in that bucket means that it's still only at a maximum 100,000 points, and you would obviously want to use that at the places that are super expensive where you get that outsized value. For us, this tends to be St. Regis's and maybe properties like Omaha. Main takeaway is that an award chart allows optimizers and maximizers to get more value. In 2023, this is changing entirely. Instead of a floor price and a ceiling price, properties can charge whatever they want. They are supposed to charge it closer to what the retail is, but we don't really know what they're going to do. That Maldives hotel that's costing you 100k points might end up costing you 350k per night in the future. On the hotel's end, this makes a ton of sense because if you talk to the GMs and other managers there, they're not really making much from people using points. They're making money on the alcohol and the food, but in terms of the room rate, they're pretty much getting the bare minimum, enough to basically cover the cost to clean it. So for example, the W Maldives, I think was $1,500 per night, and they were probably getting paid $170. As much as I want to crap on Bonvoy for doing this, it's pretty consistent with SPG pricing. Before the merger back in 2016, the St. Regis Maldives and also the W Maldives ended up costing a lot more than you think. So the normal top tier was 35,000 star points, but here, since they're all suites and also all villas, they were charging 90,000 points per night. Remember, this is SPG points and not Marriott points, so 90,000 SPG is equivalent to 270 Marriott. My guess is that we're heading back to that range, so ironically, the Bonvoy program was kind of a good thing for some of these SPG properties. Maybe not on the service end, but at least for the point redemptions. Looking into the crystal ball, we know that the music ends in 2023 and that the gravy train stops. That means for 2022, we have a huge window of opportunity. For the rest of 2022, 97% of these hotels are going to keep their award chart, so nothing has changed. Pretty much you're good to go for now. In this case, I'd book while you still can, make sure that you're getting value of course, but this is your window. For the remaining 3%, it's still based off that award chart, but instead of it just being the fixed price, it's going to be 5, 10, 20, or 30,000 additional points. A good example of this would be the St. Regis Maldives, that's normally 70,000 to 100,000 points. And here they have the ability to add up to 20,000 additional points. So you're looking at 90,000 to 120,000 points. This is also going to be the case for something like the St. Regis Bora Bora and also the Ritz-Carlton Maldives. Also the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman, if that's your jam. Have I told you about Grand Cayman? So for the 97%, you're good to go for now, book while you can. And for the 3%, you can still book. You're paying a bit more of a tax here because of you not booking earlier, but I think it's still fine. And absolute worst case, just transfer over some Amex or Chase points to top off to make it work. The benefit here, for me at least, is that you know at least what you're getting. Yes, you're paying a bit more than you should, but at least it's a known entity. In a year, it might be substantially more. I'll happily pay 120,000 points per night instead of a potential 300k points a night. Obviously, not everyone cares about aspirational or YOLO trips, but I feel like a lot of you ended up getting married recently over the last 2 years, and your spouse or significant other might be wanting to do this trip, and it's a lot easier and cheaper doing it on points than eventually doing it in a few years using cash. If you ever end up going, you're bound to run into people who dropped something like $20,000 or $30,000 for that few days. If I can use points and advantageously to check it off the bucket list, I think it makes a lot of sense. Well, what if I have Bonvoy points, but I don't want to do these aspirational trips? I don't really care about that stuff. I'd actually hold off on booking because I think the biggest buff is going to go to city people. Historically, city hotels have been pretty garbage in value. There's a lot of hotels that are $150 per night that are trying to charge 50k points. The main exception, as you would expect, would be something like the St. Regis, even the one in New York City. On a side note, I ended up staying late last year, still need to edit that video. Main takeaway though is that I think it's cool, but I don't think I'd recommend it. Service didn't seem that good. People generally didn't seem like they were happy working there, or they were fake happy. I get that city hotels are generally not the best service, but the fact that it's the crown jewel of the St. Regis brand and also one of the top, if not the top, hotel in New York City, I found it pretty meh. Since last year, the LAX Centurion lounge has been closed. The official word has been that it's for building repairs, but we didn't really know what was going on. People were pretty frustrated since it was open for a little period and it looked pretty good from the pictures, so people knew that it existed. For example, for me, I've meant to visit it, but it hasn't been open anytime I've been. Also factor in that Los Angeles has been a bit of a lounge desert, so not really the greatest experience. There was some speculation even in the back of my head that maybe they were closed for cost-cutting measures given everything going on in the last 2 years. In the meantime, instead of having an actual lounge, they have these grab-and-go bags. Earlier this week on April 14, 2022, Thrifty Traveler found a pretty interesting document. This was a report to the Board of Airport Commissioners. It covered a lot of details and it wasn't what we thought. Instead of just a leaky pipe or the toilet not working, also not sure why I'm defaulting to the restroom, it was a faulty HVAC system. How big of an issue could that possibly be? The system allowed jet fumes to get into the lounge. As a background and kind of going through the storyline of all of this, back in June of 2021, they ended up closing it for limited time repairs, and they said that they were going to reopen it soon, and it hasn't really been the case. They initially promised 2022, early 2022, and that hasn't happened. As of filming, there's still not any set timetable for this, and they're estimating that it's going to be at least 6 months. That's going to be October, and that's the best case. On one hand, I am pretty disappointed because I end up flying to Los Angeles probably more than I should, probably about 6 to 12 times a year. But on the other hand, imagine if we didn't find out about this problem until, let's say, 2 or 4 years down the line. Reading about it, it seems like it can cause a lot of neurological problems. Even though this isn't great for us, I think it might even be worse for American Express. Reading through the terms, it sounds like they were the ones footing the bill. They've been paying rent with no rent relief. They're also in charge of the $2 million sponsorship fee. I don't know anything about airport construction or commercial leases, but I feel like this should be the landlord's problem. Like if I'm renting a place and there's some faulty issues, should I be on the hook for that? If anyone works at the airport or does more commercial stuff, would love to get your thoughts down below. So in the meantime, instead of a 14,000 square foot lounge, which has pretty good amenities and also food, you have a little doggy bag. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but if you're on the West Coast, even if you don't live in LA, I think this is a pretty reasonable complaint. Whether you're in Phoenix, San Francisco, or Seattle, it's not unusual to go to LA. I think it's fair game to use this as one of your reasons during your retention call. They'll probably tell you about the credits that you're using and how you're still getting value, but I feel like the credits are there to subsidize the annual fee a bit in order for you to get value from the card, and the value tends to be from lounge access and other protections. I would say lounge access is half of the value prop of the card. If you're on the East Coast, you could probably still say that you fly to LA anyways and that you're not getting value. Maybe a harder argument depending on the city that you're based in, but I think it's still fair game. If you have a platinum card, then there is a new option in LAX that I think is worth exploring. Delta finally finished their lounge and it looks pretty amazing. It's going to be airside between Terminal 2 and 3. It's also one of the chunkier lounges out there at 30,000 square feet, and maybe I shouldn't call a lounge chunky. As someone who likes plane spotting and just staring into the tarmac, I love that they have an outdoor terrace. The design and aesthetic looks intentional. A lot of the other ones that have similar things end up looking kind of like smoker places, and maybe they probably were. This feels like an outdoor lounge or bar that I would actually want to hang out at. Food on West Coast Delta Sky Clubs have also been pretty banger for the most part. I've never really had a bad meal and haven't really regretted going in. For the new lounge, there's going to be a buffet area as well as beverages and also some quick grab and go items. Tons of seating options whether you're a plane spotter looking for a comfy seat, or someone looking for a similar seat which looks even comfier because it looks like I could watch a movie there. If you want a very different vibe, then there is the restaurant, bar vibe, and it looks like an actual restaurant. If you need to get some work done first before you drink, then there is a WeWork looking area where they have these desks and also these little booths. Design-wise, my favorite is going to be the coffee grotto, so I think it could be pretty noisy if a lot of people are talking, given how it's kind of an echo chamber thing, but I think it looks pretty cool. I could totally see myself sitting down, getting some work done, and just hanging out. Unlike Centurion lounges, you can actually go to Delta Sky Clubs when you land. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think I've started preferring these over Centurion lounges. Add in that most of these are going to be walk-in, except for maybe the morning, which is a bit slower because people have to check in, but for the most part, you're walking in. Centurion lounges, you have to check in and then wait. I've definitely had to wait 30 minutes a few times, and in Denver, we had to wait an hour. If you don't have a checked bag or you don't think it's going to get stolen, then I definitely think it's worth a pit stop when you land to either get a cup of coffee, get some drinks, or maybe a plate or two of food. This new lounge also has 8 shower suites and it looks pretty good. So again, intentionally designed versus very sterile and kind of like a medical facility, which is pretty common in Asia. Consider that there's actually artwork and plants instead of just looking like a white pod. I'm generally a fan of showering if I'm going on a long flight and I rush to the airport and I feel a bit grimy. Alternatively, if I'm landing and I can't get to the hotel room yet and I still want to wash off some of that grime and sweat before going to a meeting. To get into Delta Sky Clubs, you have a few different options like buying membership, having status, or let's say flying international first in business. For a lot of these, there are still rules, so even though I have diamond status, I can't get into this lounge by itself because I'm flying domestically. I could redeem this as one of my perks, but it doesn't really make sense. I'd rather use those towards RUCs and GUCs for upgrades. The easiest option, whether you have diamond status or no status, is to get a platinum or Delta reserve, and that gets you in if you're flying Delta. Factor in that the platinum card has a crap ton of other credits, so if you fly 2 to 3 times a year, then you're probably going to come out ahead. Your mileage may vary, but of the normal level lounges, I think Delta beats American and United. On that note, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on AskSebby and also down below in the description box. If you made it to this point in the video, then leave an airplane emoji down below and I'll try to heart your comment. Also, let me know what your thoughts are on these stories. If you are someone doing a cool booking, then feel free to leave that down below as well because I feel like other people need ideas. Alright, I think we have to leave or we're going to be late for our anniversary dinner, but hope you liked it. See you guys next time.